Common Sense, the podcast. Today we've got a very special guest with us. Someone whose journey has spanned both the football field and the business world. John Brandis, what's up, my man?
Garrett, how you doing, brother? All is well.
Good, man. I'm excited to have you. And for those of you that don't know, John was a former tight end for the Washington Redskins. Hence, I had to represent today. Make sure he knew what house this
and I represented as well.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, he brought his big shiny thing, which I knew he was going to do. I'm surprised he didn't come in full gear, but, you know, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
But John is also now the Vice President of Customer Engagement for Maintenance Supply Solutions, which is part of our multifamily industry for those of you that follow the show that aren't in multifamily. So I personally know that John's been a mentor, a leader, and an ally to the entire multifamily space. And today we're going to dive into that with him and his career and his incredible journey from football to business and his advice for any of y'all that want to make that transition or find yourself anywhere along the way in that. So, dude, thank you for agreeing to come do this with me. I've been wanting to do this with you for a while.
Yeah, man, I appreciate the call. That was awesome when you called me and said, let's do this. So it's all good.
Man. Well, for those that don't know much about us, tell us a little bit where you were born, where you grew up, like what your family was like. Give us a little bit of background on John.
All right, well, I was born in Fort Riley, Kansas, son of a military man, served 28 years in the Army, and my mom and dad unfortunately divorced when I was 9, and we moved to Arlington because my mom went to UTA to finish her nursing degree, and been there ever since. So it was a big change, leaving the military bases and moving into a community. It was actually great, and we still live in Mansfield, which is just right south of Arlington. So I knew I was going to live here and come back here, and this is where I set up family and roots, and here we are.
Right on. Big family, lots of brothers and sisters?
I got one brother and my mom, and been married 34 years and got 2 wonderful kids. I got a daughter that's a lieutenant with the Arlington Fire Department, and I've got a son that's one of our sales reps in the multifamily side. And he does a great job, and super proud of both of them very much. We got our first granddaughter that's 9 months old, so we are living life and looking forward to this next phase of being grandparents.
Congratulations,
Thank
man.
You.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, your son's kind of a stick, man. I've seen him out there on that golf course. There's not many people I know that can keep up with Mason like that.
Yeah, he probably spent a lot of time. He should have been working playing golf at the beginning, but no, he really grew up golf when he went to school at Lubbock at Texas Tech.
Yeah.
He got a job at the golf course there, and he would just start practicing and hitting the ball, and then the next thing you know, he's a good 4.6 handicap, and he can play left-handed, and he can hit them. He's fun.
Yeah. So where did take us down this football path a little bit back in the day? Like, where did your love for football come in?
And
Well, it was interesting because I played in 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, and I didn't play in high school. I was small by standard. I was a late bloomer. I didn't grow till I was in college. And so I went to Arlington Lamar, and I went out and played my junior year, but I was, 5'8", little chunky little kid trying to play wide receiver. And so, football is a game where size matters. And, the bigger kids dominate the smaller kids. And I just didn't care for it. I was a baseball player by trade. I was starting catcher at the high school. And I wound up going to college as a catcher at Cameron University in Lawton, Oklahoma, and started getting hair in places I didn't have hair before. And I grew up, and next thing you know, I'm 6'2", 230. I could always run. And the baseball coach was the one that said, man, have you ever thought about playing football? And I said, I don't want to play football. I'm here to play baseball. He goes, man, you've got some ability. You need to really think about going over there and taking a shot playing football. And so I went over there, and they were excited to have me, and I was kind of still a betweener weight-wise. They didn't know if I should be an old lineman or should I be a wide receiver. So I wound up being a tight end. I was kind of in between, so I played tight end, and I wound up having to play O-line for my first 3 years because we lost so many guys to injury that I'd move down and play guard or I'd move down and play center. And then my junior year, they kept telling me, man, you've got a shot. And I'm like, yeah, right. And they're like, there's not many guys your size with your ability that are 4'5", 40 guys at your weight. And the NFL is going to come look for you. And the junior scouts came down my junior year, worked us out. I had all 32 teams in the NFL send me letters my senior year saying you're going to have a chance. Not knowing how valuable snapping punts and field goals were because I could do that too. I never did it in college because I was always a starter. And that was mostly for another guy that wasn't a starter that did the snapping.
Yeah.
And then, got signed by Indianapolis. I went to the Colts, which was a phenomenal experience. Great city, great guys. And I went out and snapped punts one day in training camp. And Ron Meyer looked at me and said, you just signed a 10-year deal in this league. And I said, yeah, right. Again, there's no way. And, made it. And, what a great experience it was. 8 years, wound up being Special Teams Player of the Year 4 times and led the league in tackles on special teams 4 years in a row. And I could run and I was big. So I love covering kickoffs. I love snapping punts and covering punt coverage. And I was on every special team. So kickoff return and punt return were part of that. And
was that still when the now late Jim Irsay was there,
yeah,
or was it his dad still?
His dad was still there, but Jim was kind of taking over. The son was kind of taking over the reins at that point, but his dad was still involved. And sad news, hearing that Jim passed away. He's a great guy, and he did a great job, and he deserves a lot of credit for what the Colts have done. And I hated to hear that he had passed away.
What was it like being around him? Because, everything you hear is, he had kind of this, rock star persona. I mean, he's got this amazing guitar music collection, and he'd get up with his own little band and play stuff. How did you guys as players look at that with, the owner's son and, him coming in? He almost had, a rock star persona in that.
Yeah, and, they were around the team, but not a lot. He was a younger guy then, built well. He's a big power lifter. Him and our strength coach would do a lot of powerlifting events together. Our strength coach, Tom Zupanzik, was, a 720 bench and a 1,000 squatter. And Jim kind of got tied up with him, and him and Zoop, we called him Zoop, Tom Zupanzik, but they would work out together, and he built guy, good-looking guy, the son of the owner of the NFL team who knew he was going to take over that team one day, and he kind of blended in with the guys. He was kind of like one of us. We all knew that he was the boss, and so we respected him for that, but he was a lot of fun to be around. He was a rock star guy. I mean, he was a good fit to be around the guys.
Yeah, that's just cool. I think, you just don't see that kind of dynamic a lot on that side.
Right.
And I thought that would be a really cool perspective on that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he did pass, I think, Wednesday or so.
Yeah. We got an email Wednesday, I believe, and sad news. And lot of love to that guy, a lot of love to that franchise, and I'm sure they're going to continue to do well. That franchise really turned around. I enjoyed Indianapolis. Probably one of the great all-around cities to live in, sports nuts town, because when I played there, that's where they used to hold the Olympic trials. Mm-hmm. And so we'd get to go watch the track and field events and the swimming events and the town was just a big sports town. Got the Indianapolis 500 there, got the Colts there, and it was a great experience, man.
I think it's crazy too, right, Biz? This is almost kind of similar to the Tony Hill story. Tony was a top recruited tight end in the nation, and then jacked up his leg, and then he gets moved to the O-line, whereas you kind of started on the O-line and moved to tight end, and it's just picturing, because all y'all are big ass dudes, picturing big ass dudes like that at tight ends is just mind blowing to me.
Well, what was amazing was
especially in that time period.
Yeah, when I went to Washington, the NFC East kind of dominated football at that time, right? I mean, you got to think Washington went to 4 Super Bowls, the Giants went to 3, Dallas went to 3 during that time frame. And our tight end, we ran the ball. The NFC East ran the ball. Dallas lined up and said, 22, you're getting the ball. And we all knew 22 was going to get the ball.
Yeah.
And most of the time you couldn't do nothing about it. You just hoped that you could hold them and get out of there. And we ran the ball. Ernest Biner and Gerald Riggs. We had the Hogs up front. I mean, we got, Hall of Fame guys that played on that O-line. Dallas
Rippon was your quarterback,
Rip
right?
was the quarterback. And, the Giants ran the ball. You had Phil Simms and Otis Anderson and that group. And the Eagles had Randall Cunningham and that group up there. I mean, it was a great division. It was power football. It was run, 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 and then you set up the pass. And Dallas was great because they could, as long as Emmett could run the ball, and they could with that big line, with Tuanay and Stepnoski and Newton and those guys, that they could set the passing game up. And then you've got Novacek and Irvin and,
don't forget Moose opening up that hole for him too.
You got people out there you got to pay attention to now, because once they started chunking it, they're like us. Because I tell people this all the time. We had the 3 best wide receivers that were ever assembled on one team. When you've got Art Monk and Gary Clark and Ricky Sanders on the same team, you got to realize Ricky still holds the reception record in the Super Bowl. Okay, Rip was the MVP of the Super Bowl. Doug Williams was MVP of the Super Bowl. John Riggins was MVP of the Super Bowl. So we had great tradition there, but we were a pretty quiet, humble group of guys, and we just kind of went out there and did our deal. It was fun to always watch Darrell Green line up against Michael Irvin. The quiet, solid corner, Hall of Famer, 22 years in the league, against a very vocal, always talking, never quiet, right?
Who, Michael?
Oh, yeah, all he did was chirp all the time. So it was kind of fun to see those 2 guys match up. So when you watch game film on Monday, it was always great to see those 2 guys battling. And 2 warriors going at it. But everybody knew, and it was great because Rip was our leader, right? Nobody talked in the huddle. Troy was the same way in Dallas. With all of those great egos he had over there, he ran the show. I heard him yell and scream at those guys all the time to be quiet because he was in charge. And, of course, wide receivers are always open. Okay?
Oh, yeah, if you ask them,
they're always open, right? Throw me the ball. They're always open. Well, they don't realize the 8 guys that are blitzing the quarterback. Quarterback's trying to get rid of it. So, great division, great competition. Every week you had to buckle it up. It was tough. It was tough.
Where did you really realize I got a shot at this? College, because you didn't go to one of the really big schools and stuff like that, and to where did you really it come out? I know they're telling you hey, you got a shot, but where did that really hit for you, and what did you do to prepare yourself for that?
Yeah, it was weird because my junior year, when the junior scouts came in the spring, and they take you out and they do all of these running and agility tests, and then you catch passes, then you kind of snap punts, and you whatever your specialty is, you kind of do different things. And my senior year, I started getting all these letters, and my coach would come to me and say, hey, there's going to be 7 teams here Saturday, so get ready. We're going to do everything. And we were a running team in college. We went to back-to-back national championship games my junior and senior year. We didn't throw the ball a lot. And so really all they were going to do was watch me arc block, out of the veer offense and go get after a safety or something. It probably wasn't until we went to training camp, and I was so frustrated trying to learn the offense. It was so hard. All the motions and because I was the move tight end, they call them H-backs. And to learn how to line up in one formation and motion out of that formation, it was hard, and I struggled. And the second week, it was worse because the veterans came in. The first week is just rookies. The second week, the vets came in, and they beat me to death. That second week, they didn't care who you were. They stomp on you, spit on you, give you an extra cheap shot when you wasn't looking. And come the third week, I started settling down a little bit. And then our starting tight end, Mark Boyer, who I still love today, is a good friend. He was our starting H-back out of USC. He blew his ankle out. And so now it came down between me and another veteran. I was the only rookie in camp of 9 tight ends. And so Coach said, he's going to start and play the first half, then you're going to come in and play the second half. But at week 3, you're going to start, he's going to come in and play the second half, and we'll make a cut after that third game in preseason. And I really played well. I was surprised. I went out there, and I mean, my knees were shaking. I mean, 80,000 people in Detroit, the first game I started in the preseason. And I walked out there and I went, oh, here we go, you know. And to be one of those 12 guys or 11 guys was really a special deal. And all I did was just put my mouthpiece in my mouth and say, okay, let's go. You know, here's your time to shine. And I had snapped some punts in practice and done some things like that. And that Monday, I came in and they had released the other tight end going into week 4. And I knew then that I probably was the guy they were going to keep. You know, number one, I was a rookie making minimum wage, which was nothing back then. And he was a 10-year vet getting paid pretty well. So I had more to offer than he did at that time because I could play special teams and I could snap punts and field goals and I could play H-back, tight end, or slot receiver. So I had more things to offer than he did. And so my rookie year, they told me that we're not going to make you snap your rookie year. We just want you to get your feet wet because I came out of an NAI school at Cameron University. I'd never played at the speed of the game like playing at Alabama or playing at a USC as these guys have. Everybody in the NFL can run. Everybody in the NFL is big, and everybody in the NFL is not scared to hit somebody. In college, I could dominate NAI schools because I was so much bigger and stronger and faster than they were. So I could run them over, or I could run around them, or whatever I wanted to do to them. That doesn't work in the NFL. Those guys jacked me up that second week, really humbled me, really taught me that I had a long way to go to learn how to play the game at that level. And I give a lot of credit to the Colt organization for keeping me around. And it really set me up for where I went from there and what happened after those 3 years that I was in Indianapolis. I loved Indianapolis, and I would live in that city. Great city to live and raise a family, and I loved it there.
How was the transition once you ended up going over to the Redskins?
You know, it was very interesting because back then they had Plan B free agency, and what that was every team on April 1 had to submit their protected roster. So they would protect 37 guys. 8 guys then became free agents on that list that was eligible to negotiate with any team they wanted to go to in the month of April. So it was a pretty busy month. And I was their special teams player of the year that year. And Ron Meyer called me in and said, hey, we're not going to protect you, but we don't want you to even consider going anywhere else. And I was not a happy guy. And went home, and my mom was visiting me at that time, and I told my mom, I said, Mom, I'm going to go out with the guys tonight, and I'll be home later tonight. And she said, I don't blame you. Go have fun. And I went out with the guys and goofed off and came home about 1:30 that morning, and my mom walks out and looks at me and goes, you're not going to believe who just called you at 12:01 after midnight, because that's when it started. At 12 o'clock Eastern, that's when Plan B free agency started. And I said, oh, okay. I said, who? She said, Joe Gibbs called, and he said that he will call you tomorrow. Wanted me to tell you that you will be a Redskin. And I went, really? And I was like, wow. So then all of a sudden, I get calls from Minnesota, Denver, Pittsburgh. You name it, I got calls from them. And it wound up being 26 teams, and the league wanted me to visit in the month of April. So I got with my agent, and I narrowed it down to 7 teams that I was very interested in. Washington, Dallas, Denver, Minnesota. I was interested in a lot of those teams that really had good special teams group. Detroit had really good special teams group. And so the first place, and my agent, Vic Vines, at that time, he had played for Washington. So when he called me and said, hey, they've already contacted me, and I'm telling you, you're going to be hooked. When you meet Joe Gibbs, you're going to be hooked. And I said, oh, okay, cool. So they called me, set up a trip. I flew into D.C., Washington was right there. They had come off the 82, 83, and 87 Super Bowl. So they were pretty stacked. Their roster was pretty loaded with guys that had been there for a long time. And met Joe Gibbs. He only wanted 3 players that were on Plan B free agency that year. And it was Matt Millen and myself and a wide receiver named Walter Stanley. So they flew us in together. And he picked us up at the airport with no media, no PR people, no people. It was Coach Gibbs met all 3 of us at our gates, okay, by himself. Got us in the car, drove us around, showed us the golf courses in the neighborhoods. We went to Redskin Park. The coaches were waiting for us. We didn't have to do any testing. It was, we watch film, so we know how good you are, but we need you. You're a piece that we've got to have. Well, I was leaving Washington, flying to Dallas. Okay, I'm from here. Okay,
Yeah.
I was a Cowboy fan my whole life. They were 1-15 the year before, and it was a totally different environment. You know, Jimmy and Jerry were showing out. They had the Cowboy cheerleaders. It was more like a college recruiting trip than it was a pro visit. You know, they were looking at everybody because they were struggling for bodies at that point. And so I had a big dilemma to make. They wanted to sign me. Washington wanted to sign me. And I was really stuck in the middle. I took it all the way down to the end of where I was going to go play. And I just couldn't turn down Coach Gibbs. And I'm telling you, top 3 greatest men I've ever been around, never cussed at us, never yelled at us. The way you see him on TV is the way that he is in real life. He led our Bible studies in training camp. And he was just a guy that you wanted to commit to play to. And I tell people this all the time. A lot of people don't know this, but our 91 Redskin team is the only team in NFL history that was in the top 5 in special teams, offense, and defense. In Super Bowl history, the only team to ever do that. So every year, we're the #1 team ever assembled to win a Super Bowl by ESPN and USA Today and all of the big major sports outlets. And you can't name our 3 Hall of Famers that played on that team. And it's because that's the way Coach Gibbs was. He did not allow us to speak negative in the media about another team. He expected us to be married men and fathers to our children. And he just had a different level standard of what he expected you to be. And it was the greatest 4 years of my life is being around that guy. So every year that I get to see him, and I would love to see him more, he still knows my kids' names, which is unheard of. And he's just a great guy, just a great human being.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I love and hate hearing that at the same time because you're one of a few of my close friends that played in the NFL and that I've got to really sit down and get to know and talk with. And that's the shit that drives me nuts about my Dallas Cowboys. And, I've asked every single one of them, like, what's the difference, man? Because some of these guys, like, they played for the Steelers and have Super Bowl rings from when they were with the Steelers. And I'm like, what is it, man? Like, what is missing? And they're like, their favorite line, and we'll not get into the Mike Tomlin jokes here, but they're like, you listen to Mike Tomlin after a game. He's like, the standard is the standard. We have a standard here. We did not live up to our standard today, and we're going to work on that because everybody's expected to live up to the standard here.
Yeah.
And he doesn't make excuses. He doesn't bullshit around. He's not high or low, really, during the press conference the majority of the time. And he's like, the Cowboys are only worried about selling that star. He's like, once you got past the days where you had the Troy Aikmans there that were in those real leaders of men, that it didn't matter what Jerry or you name the coach, even if it wasn't Jimmy, did, you still had those leaders. And those guys were going to hold you accountable to the standard.
Yeah. And, a lot of it was, I tell people this all the time. You never hear about the Rooney family getting involved with the head coach in the football. They don't care, just win a trophy. Well, Mr. Cook was the same way with Coach Gibbs. He hired Coach Gibbs to coach, pick, put the team together, win Super Bowls. If if Jerry would have left Jimmy as their head coach, they would have probably won 5 Super Bowls in the 90s.
Yeah.
Instead of 2. They would have won more than that or 3. They were loaded. And I'll tell you how loaded they were. Barry Switzer took over, which I could have done, with the same group that Jimmy had put together and won a Super Bowl as a head coach. They would have won 5 easy because of the team that they had. So when Jerry thought that he could coach it and own it and run it, it kind of opened the door up. They've gone through a million coaches.
Yeah.
They've gone through a million quarterbacks. Now they've settled on Dak, and they just don't have the same it. You know, when we came down here to play and when they came to us to play, it was the game of the year. Dallas versus Washington. Anytime that we played them, was the game. And we knew we were going to get their best shot because Jimmy was coaching them guys. He was coaching them. And they knew that they had to play well. He had a standard that he kept on them, and they played well all the time. Just like Coach Gibbs had a standard on us. And we wanted to play for Coach Gibbs. Those guys wanted to play for Jimmy. And Mr. Cook, he was worth $3 billion in real estate. I mean, he owned Rockefeller Plaza in New York City. He just you give him a $50 million TV package, that's what he makes every 5 minutes. With his money, he didn't care. Just win Super Bowls. And they went to 4 in 10 years. No other coach has ever done that. Going 4 Super Bowls in 10 years, never been done, and probably won't be done again. Well,
Belichick.
Now Belichick has. Yeah. So it has been done again. I take that back. But New England was pretty loaded in the AFC for all those years because of the guys they had and the coach that was coaching them. Because he didn't take no crap off none of them. Even Brady, he didn't take crap off of him. So they were so talented. Philly was talented. New York was talented. I mean, you look at the 80s and the 90s, there were 11 Super Bowls won, 11 or 12 Super Bowls won out of the NFC East. And it just showed you how good that conference was. We knew if we won home field advantage. Dallas knew if they won home field advantage throughout the playoffs. New York knew if they won home field advantage out of the playoffs. We had to beat Chicago or San Francisco. We're going to be in that mix. And once we got by them, bring on whoever the AFC team was. Too bad for y'all because it's not going to be good. You're not going to like the outcome. And Buffalo found that out, 4 times in a row against NFC East teams. And it was a great division, great competition, man on man, a lot of respect, but a lot of rivalry. And it was game on every week coming out of the East.
Well, I'm not going to lie. Y'all are the team that scares the shit out of me now. I mean, you got a hell of a coach over there.
Yep.
That quarterback is something else.
Yeah.
And, man, you guys are really putting something together.
And again, it all started with new ownership, right?
Yeah.
We lost a lot of faith with Daniel Snyder running the team. Daniel Snyder was trying to run the team like Jerry's trying to run the Cowboys. Jerry really cares about 118,000 people every Sunday at that stadium, which they paid for the first year that it was built, and it's packed no matter how good or bad they're doing. And here's the difference, and I tell people this all the time. 75%, maybe 80% of all the Super Bowls, okay, have been won with teams out of the Northeast. Okay, Kansas City, New England, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Washington, New York, Philly. You look at all the teams that play in the Northeast. They all play outside except Minnesota, right? So the fans up there, if you stink, they don't come. And they boo you in your own stadium because they just don't pay their money to come watch mediocrity. They want winners up there. Sometimes we get a little bit lax. We used to always not be worried when we'd go in the playoffs and play New Orleans in New Orleans because it was inside. The temperature's the same for both of us, but New Orleans did not want to come to Washington in January when it was 15 degrees and the wind chill of -10 because we practiced in it every day. I'm not saying anybody gets used to it, but you're more comfortable in it.
You've adapted to it.
You've adapted to it. It's still cold and you hate it. But we knew you're in our yard and it's cold out here.
Yeah.
You go to Pittsburgh or you go to New England when it's 20 below zero, you don't want to go up there and play those guys. You don't want to play them. So everybody knew you went home field up there, you had a shot. if the teams down here won home field, it balanced the field, because now we're going from freezing, miserable weather to inside when it's comfortable. So they kind of put a lot of pressure on themselves, trying to have every team come down here. Now Dallas handled it well. You know, their 2 years that they went, or their 3 years that they went in the 90s. It was, you know, the old Texas Stadium was horrible, and it was hot. There's no wind blowing around in there. It was miserable, and especially at the beginning of the year. You know, we played them in 1990, the third game of the year, and it was 130 degrees on the field, and it was Monday Night Football. It was miserable. And I've never been that sick. Our team, we were hurting bad, and we wound up barely winning. Emmett got sick at halftime is probably the only reason we won. And it's just a different vibe. Being in the Northeast, coming south, or going west, it was different. And but we knew if we win home field, we have a shot. So it was just different, you know.
Well, you've talked about a few. What were maybe, I mean, because you got to be coached and mentored by a lot of great leaders of men. I mean, you've talked about Gibbs and the Ursays and everybody else and Zoop. What were maybe, who was maybe one of the like mentors or coaches that really like, you know, taught you some kind of key lesson, or what were those key lessons that not only, you know, stuck with you in football, but maybe life as well?
You know, Wayne Sevier, who was our special teams coach in Washington, was Coach Gibbs' best friend from high school.
Okay.
Probably taught me more about being the best that I could be and being the man that I could be. He was tough on us. He yelled and screamed, and I mean, he demanded the best out of us. You know, special teams doesn't get a lot of credit in the NFL, and it's kind of a please don't don't snap the ball over the punter's head, or don't let Dion run a kickoff back on you. You know, just go out there and hold your ground. But Wayne demanded out of us. He demanded, and he made me the player that I became. I mean, and because he challenged us. And in Washington, when we would watch special teams film on Monday, everybody in the building came to the special teams. Secretaries, trainers, equipment guys, everybody came to special teams meeting. And he would call you out in front of everyone in the building. So Wayne, I give a lot of credit for the player I became because of Wayne. I just won my first Player of the Year award coming out of Indy that year, going into D.C. We had just drafted, my first year in D.C., we had drafted Brian Mitchell, who wound up becoming the all-time, yardage. I mean, he's like third all-time in total yardage in the NFL. And he was a man-child coming out of Louisiana. That guy he's ridiculous. And Wayne made Brian who he was, because he challenged him and made him be better than what he thought he was in his own mind. Nobody ever wanted to go to a special teams meeting on Monday and get called out, because he would bring, all of our offensive starters were there, defensive guys were there, and he would call you out and say, Brandis did not earn his check, and he really cheated you starters this game. He would call you out on the film. And took me under his wing when I was young, and kept me on the right. When you come to the Y in the road, he was there to guide me to the right side of the road to go on, and kept me out of trouble. And he demanded me to grow up and be a man, and still love him today. Still my best friend. But Wayne was the guy that really taught me football wise, and Gibbs taught me man wise and husband wise and father wise. Those two guys really, really, really kind of molded me into the guy that I am. Personality-wise, me and Coach Gibbs are a lot alike. And I think I'm a level-headed, calm guy. I never lose control. I stay pretty much within myself all the time, and I love talking to people and having fun, as you know. And I just enjoy speaking to people and being in front of people. And a lot of it came from that Coach Gibbs and Wayne. And I actually had a chance to coach there when I retired, but you know, the hours you put in, I would have to sacrifice my family for that, and I couldn't do that with a, you know, 2-year-old daughter and a newborn son. I really wanted to be at home with them and be at their school functions and their school events, and I went into the working world and never looked back, never regretted it. Now my kids would love to see me coach today because of all the sacrifices I made for them when they were young, but I really don't have an interest now. I kind of enjoy what I'm doing, and
That's cool, man. That's a really cool perspective. Like, I also think it's pretty amazing, man. I don't know many guys that played in your time period that still walk around as well as you do.
Oh.
I mean, like,
it's tough, bro.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you've obviously taken care of your body because, I mean, like, back then, to me, that's a completely different game than today.
Well, I've had 20-something surgeries. I've had knees replaced. I've had both my shoulders replaced twice. I've had my thumb fused, my neck fused, both of my arches in my feet fused twice.
Man.
So I've had quite a few surgeries. I may look good on the outside, but it's tough on the inside. And but orthopedic-wise, that's part of it. You know, when you're supposed to weigh 190 and you play at 270, and you're squatting and you're doing all of those things, and you're getting hit, and you're falling down and having to get up. I mean, over time, I mean, I go back to our reunion weekends, and I actually don't feel too bad for myself because I look at some of our other guys and go, man, you know, he's really struggling. Thank God I've never had a really serious neck or back issue that would hurt my spine to make me hurt everywhere else. So I've been pretty fortunate there. But boy, everything else I've had jacked up. So it's
man,
it's part of it. It's part of it. Nobody would ever thought, you know, at my age, you know, I'm 61 now. You know, when I was 28, nothing hurt.
Right.
Man, when I turned 40 years old, whoo, man, I couldn't get out of bed without something hurting. So it takes a toll on you. And it's a tough sport played by grown men. And it's what you sign up for.
What are your thoughts on how the game's changed today?
I think the game's ruined. You know, 1987, my rookie year, when I made the roster, you know, that was the strike year. And we were, you know, it had been, the rookies couldn't attend the union meetings. Okay, so every time they had a union meeting, which was pretty much every day, we had to leave the facility. So we were not part of the vote if we wanted to strike or not. So here we are, you know, we all got new cars, and, you know, we're living in an apartment with 4 other players. I had 5 roommates my rookie year in a 4-bedroom apartment just because we didn't make that kind of money back then. And we go on strike. Well, you go on strike, you don't get paid. Right. So I'm going, what in the world am I going to do, you know? And I was so disappointed that we went on strike. You know, we only played 3 games, and I was just kind of getting into it a little bit. And then here we are on strike. So I flew back home. Ron Meyer flew me back to Lawton, and I got to watch my college guys play that year and be around my teammates. And I stayed with one of those guys in the dorms, and 3 weeks later I flew back to Indianapolis, and we got back after it. So it was a sad way to start it. So what happened with that was I kept thinking to myself, if the league agrees to salary cap and free agency, the game will change forever. Because the coaches have no authority over the players now. The players have all the authority. You give a guy $60 million guaranteed money, he ain't going nowhere. He's on your roster if you like it or not. When I played, you just hoped on Tuesday. Tuesday was our day off. You just hoped on Tuesday they didn't bring 4 tight ends in and work them out, and you saw those guys out there working out because they could cut you on Tuesday with no guarantee. Well, these kids today are making ridiculous money. I mean, ridiculous money. And a lot of it was because of our 87 year when we went on strike. So the Mahomeses and all of these guys that are making all this crazy, ridiculous money today should be really thankful for the 87 guys that agreed to salary cap and free agency. I think the owners wish it would have still was the way that it was back when I was playing. And the no hitting anybody anymore. Now I understand blatant, crazy, cheap shots but a receiver running across the middle when I played, you knew, catch it or drop it, you were going to get jacked. Okay, Darren Woodson was coming, and he wasn't stopping. So if you dropped it, you were going to get jacked. And that taught you, don't run in here. If you run in here, we're coming. Well, now you can't touch them, right? You have to hit them in the chest. And I tell people this all the time. I would love to see the NFL stats, because I promise you they have just as many injuries and just as many concussions now that they have to pull off of each other than we did when we were full speed contact all the way to the ground. And the only difference now is, back then, they would give you the old finger test. How many fingers am I holding up? 2. Oh, great. They'd have 6 up. They're like, okay, you're good to go. And they didn't take your helmet away from you, because it was kind of an ego deal. Men are their own worst enemies. If you didn't play the rest of the game, then somebody had to carry your slack. And you never wanted to put somebody on your team in that position. So most of the time, you wouldn't even say anything that you got popped really. They knew that you got hit hard, but you just wouldn't say anything. They'd say, are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. And then you would just try to brush it off.
The movie Any Given Sunday was a great example.
Yeah, Any Given Sunday. But then you watch the concussion movie.
Will Smith?
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was the truth, man. I
I get that.
Until, I'll never forget when all of that was coming out. Dave Durison, who played for the Giants, was working with the NFL. And he kept coming out saying, these guys are liars. Mike Webster had killed himself. About 4 of the Steelers had killed themselves. Some other guys had committed suicide. So Durison's going, all they're doing is money hungry, money seeking. That's all they're doing. That's all they're doing. Well, Dave Durison killed himself. And when he killed himself, the league immediately knew, we've got problems, because he had CTE, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why all of this concussion stuff changed the league. And that's why we get to do free physicals every 5 years, to have our brains and our bodies checked. That's why they quit allowing the late hits or the blindside shots where you're going helmet to helmet on guys. You're taught your whole life to tackle with your face. And then all of a sudden, you can't tackle with your face anymore, especially helmet to helmet. And so that part of it I'm okay with, but I think they've just pacified the game so much that now you hit. If you brush the quarterback, it's 15 yards. He's a player too.
Yeah, I get the safety stuff when it comes to concussion stuff, but I still think they should be able to hit.
Me too.
You want to advance the technology in the helmets and stuff. I understand all that.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm good with that. But I'm really tired of all the weird rule changes and stuff. Is a catch a catch? Is it a fumble or not? Oh, well, his knee touched before the ball came out, so that's not a fumble. I'm like, on what planet?
Yeah.
You used to have to carry the thing to the ground and keep hold of it. It didn't matter that your elbow or your knee touched the ground.
Well, the game has changed, and I think you know this, over the years, from defensive football to now they want scoring. And they want high-flying offenses that are throwing the ball 70 times a game. They want touchdowns. The fans want excitement. They want scoring. They don't care much about what you do defensively.
Well, you can't hit the shit out of somebody and have a gladiator moment where you're like, oh, that dude just destroyed him.
Yeah.
I remember the game with one of the hardest hits I saw in more recent times when Reggie Bush was on the Saints and Lito Shepherd in that playoff game came up and hit him, and he literally bear crawled to the sideline. That was one of the that's the last major hit I remember.
Yeah.
And then they just kept changing everything, and you don't get to see you don't appreciate the defense as much, because now defense is all about finesse.
Yeah. Well, the 80s and 90 guys would be fined so much playing today that we would never get a check.
Yeah.
It would all be fine money, because you take the Lester Hayeses and you take the Dick Butkus guys and you take that group of guys that just obliterated people, they would never get paid. It would all be fine money.
Absolutely.
And, the game has went finesse. It went spread offense. It went away from the run game. It went to spread it out, throw it 60 times, 70 times a game to and it's kind of changed because now it's so passive.
All right, let's transition this a little bit, because I could talk to you about football all night long. How did the discipline and the structure of football really help you transition into your work in the multifamily industry and what you do now, and what maybe parallels do you see between those?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was discipline and organization. Football-wise, you're on a schedule, right? It's every day during the season is the same exact thing. Show up at this time, have breakfast at this time, go to your first meeting at this time. So when I left football and moved back to Mansfield full-time in 1994 when I retired, I went into the construction business. And I'm not a construction guy, right? I'm a great project manager as far as scheduling and working with guys, but I'm not an electrician or a plumber or a framer. I mean, I expect those guys to do their job and not have me having, because I can't tell them you need to run that wire this way or that way. And so for me, it was scheduling, and it was me staying on top of scheduling it. And I built houses for 25 years, and I told all of my subs, and I used the same subs pretty much my whole building career, and I loved every one of those guys. And I told them when I first gave them their first house, please do your job. Don't let the inspector have to do your job for you. And they did. And if anything was wrong, they were there that day to repair it. And it was just friendliness, becoming friends with them, becoming partners with them on these houses. That was back in the building boom when they were they were thankful. We were doing 20 houses at a time back then, and I would give the same contract for 20 houses to the same plumber, same electrician, same painter. They were thankful, and they gave their best for me, but a lot of it was on me. Scheduling, professionalism, being respectful, making sure they got paid on time, being a Joe Gibbs leader around these guys, letting them see me smile, let me not be disappointed at them. If the inspector gave me 3 red tags, I didn't lose my cool. I just called him up, said, hey, he wants you to do this pipe different, or and they'd be like, okay, we'll be over there this afternoon. Never blew my top with those guys. Stayed professional the whole time. So a lot of that carried over. I've always been a good guy.
That's great advice for any project manager. Any of you project managers out there, that is great advice. When you're building your team and you need to have your guys that you can call on, that.
I used to tell every so often you miss something, right?
Yeah, shit happens in construction.
It does, and I would miss scheduling my brick on Tuesday, and I would have it come on Friday when I really wanted it on Tuesday. So my masons would show up on Tuesday saying, hey, you called us and said and it was my fault. So why am I mad at them? I was the one that scheduled it. I just messed it up. So I compensated them for their time driving over there, told them, hey, come back Friday, we're ready to go. But it was my fault. So as long as I stayed on top of my scheduling, getting the houses built and apartment complexes I built in a timely fashion was my scheduling. It wasn't my subs, so you have to stay on top of it. And I stayed on top of it. But after 20-something years, man, 7 days a week, I was over there every Sunday, looking at what needed to be done on Monday, making sure that I had this ready to go on Thursday and get this guy done on Tuesday. It was crazy. And so I kind of got burned out on it. I'd done it for a long time, enjoyed it. I love taking acres of nothing but grass and developing them, putting pads on them, and build houses on them, and watch the lights light up for the first time. I was still excited about that after 20 years of doing it, just to see the lights come on. Get my meter put in, I was pumped, because we just took a piece of dirt and built a house on it, which was cool.
Yeah,
and to
absolutely.
see it all come together and watch the lights come on for the first time, I'd be like, man, this is awesome. I did that. It was awesome. But scheduling and putting everything together is the same as a coach in football. He gives us the schedule on Wednesday, and it's his schedule. And if he messes something up, it's on him. And so I always took it as, I'm the project manager. It's my job to make sure that I schedule everybody the right way. If I ever messed up one of my subs, I compensated them for it, and I took care of them. Most of the time they didn't want it because they knew they were going to get the next 20 houses, and they'd be like, hey, John, we got somewhere else we can go. We're good. And I said, man, I'm so sorry you came all the way over here and I don't have the plumbing stuff here for you. My bad, And I tried not to make that happen very often, and I stayed on top of it the best I could.
Man, I think that is, I'm going to use that. That is a great analogy of like looking at the PM role as a coach. I mean, that really truly like encapsulates the essence of all those moving parts that these PMs are juggling. I mean, I'm going to use that with my own guys. Like that, I think that's
something else great, Bub. And you, as a project manager, I'm the boss. Okay, right? I write their checks. I pay them. But I'm not a licensed electrician. How can I go yell and scream at a licensed electrician? I'm not a licensed electrician. They would just look at me like, we don't have to do that in this room, John. We do those in this other room. I just never did that because that's not what my specialty was.
Yeah.
And so they respected that, and my guys were great to me, and I love them all. I still call them now if I need something done at my house, they show up. I mean, they come, what do you need, man? Done. And it's because of all the business we did together for those years, and I still use the same HVAC contractor at my personal house. I still use the same trim guy at my personal house, and they show up and they don't want any compensation for it. They're just like, hey, what do you need done? Hey, can you replace these 2 pieces of trim for me? Absolutely, got it. And they just go in there and do it, and then they move on. And so I think a lot of that was just respect that I had. I loved them all. They were all good friends of mine after the years, and I still talk to them, quite a few of them even still today. So yeah,
that's awesome.
That's just part of it. Same with football, right? You win, you coach, you compete, you become locked together. And when we see Coach Gibbs, it's fantastic because even after all of these years after I retired, he still knows that my wife and my kids, he knows them by name. That is what true leadership is. Okay? It's not yelling and screaming and cussing and throwing a fit. It is getting involved with you personally. And I had contractors that I had to get involved with personally. You know, they were late or they maybe drank too much the night before. They would show up on Monday when I had them scheduled, and we would just talk about it and meet with them and say, hey man, you know, you're in the working world now, bro. You need to make sure you commit to me. You got to show up. If not, I've got to start looking for somebody else, because there's a lot of guys out here that are hungry to get in. And so there was a lot of crossover that way.
So how did you transition from the home building into like being where you're at today in multifamily?
Okay, so the last 12 years of my home building career, I bought all of my building materials from DeFord's Lumber in Duncanville, okay? DeFord's was a private, I mean not a private, they were a custom lumber yard in Duncanville. I'm not going to say small, they were big. But they had a millwork division. They had 2 door lines. They sold all the millwork. They sold windows. They did everything. And I got invited to go to the Coast House, which you know about because you've been to the Coast House.
Yeah.
And before that, I bought everything from Builders First Source. Brian Klitschko was my neighbor, and he worked at Builders First Source, so I bought everything from him. Go to the island. My boss said, you're going to buy everything from the forest. I said, no, I'm not. He goes, yes, you are. I said, no, I'm not. Brian has done nothing wrong, and I was loyal, and I threw a fit, and wound up being forced to get everything from the Fords, and became really, really close with Patrick Davidson and Tim Burgess. They were the president and CFO. Went to the island with those guys. Had such a great time. They invited me to go again, and then I got to go again. Then I started going with them as friends. Okay, they would call me up and say, hey, can you sneak out of town Thursday, Friday, Saturday? I'd be like, you going to the island? Yep, okay, I'm in. And when I built my last neighborhood in Grand Prairie, when I developed it, got the last house built, got it sold, I said, I'm done. You know, this 7 days a week, you know, I'd go to church on Sunday, go straight to my houses, turn the sprinklers on, make sure all the yards got watered, you know, because the sod wasn't freshly laid. And I'd spend 4 or 5 hours over there. And I went to Patrick and I said, Patrick, I want to fit in over here. Their culture over there is like when I was in Washington. Patrick reminds me so much of me, and he reminds me so much of Coach Gibbs. Patient, doesn't yell and scream. He led a company of 180 employees. He knew everybody's name. he was really a spitting image of Ronnie DeFord, who knew everybody personally. And I just wanted to be a part of that culture. So
That's so important.
he said, come back, see me in 3 days. I said, okay, because I was going to leave the company I was with. I just didn't know where I was going to go. And I went back over there in 3 days. He goes, you're going to become my sales manager in our maintenance supply division. And I said, what is that? So he gives me this catalog, about 500 pages thick. I opened it up. Of course, I know toilets and, I know, Flowmaster and GFI plugs. And I said, oh, this would be fun. He goes, hey, all I want you to do is go out and start calling with the reps on customers. I want you to kind of be our face out in front of our people. Start these relationships and build these relationships. Probably one of the strongest things I do is relationships. And once I become friends with you, we're friends forever. No matter what happens, all's forgiven and we're going to move on. And I started doing it. I really, really liked it. And 5 years into that sales manager role, our general manager had always signed us up for events in the Apartment Association in Dallas and the Apartment Association in Fort Worth. So we'd go play golf or we'd go to trade show, but I never was involved at the association level. I would just show up and participate in whatever he signed us up for. And so 5, 6 years into it, I couldn't do both anymore. I was running from this meeting to that meeting to go to that function to this function, and I was started taking away from my sales manager responsibility as far as being out with my reps and being in front of our customers. Because when we would have a dishwasher that wouldn't work, I'd be the guy that go talk to the manager. And say, Michelle, calm down. Okay, we'll get you another dishwasher out here. We'll get this worked out. Well, you're a breath of fresh air, I say, we got you. We'll take care of you. If it doesn't work, we'll take care of it. And so I kind of started taking away from that a little bit. So Patrick kind of saw the need that we get another guy to step into the sales manager role that would free me up to work more with the apartment associations. And I've really loved the transition into the apartment associations. My schedule's full, 300 days a year. I've got responsibilities in Oklahoma City, and I'm on the board in Dallas, and I'm also on the board in Fort Worth. And so I run from meeting to next gen to this to that. I mean, I'm all over the place. And I'm the one that bids in the auctions on what we're going to participate in. I'm the one that assigns the sales reps to what events they're going to go to during the year with the sales manager. He helps me on that. So I'm kind of the guy that kind of does that. And then my role with the associations has grown, where I went from a committee chair to then I went on as a voting board member, to where I went on as a voting board member, plus I was a TAA delegate, which last year was awesome. I got to go to the 4 TAA meetings, which are fun to go to. Just to be around the supplier partners all over the state in the PSC meetings at the TAA level was a treat, because everybody has the same issues. I don't care if you're in El Paso, Texarkana, I don't care where you're at.
Yeah.
Everybody has the same issues. So we're kind of spoiled here, and being in this market, we're spoiled because this is the largest market in the country. I mean, when you talk about doors, apartment doors, we have more than, unless you count all of the Bronx or all of New York together as one, and they don't. They count them up individually. We're the largest, and it's a full-time job. It's a full-time job keeping up with all of that. So I enjoy it. What a great way to spend my 60s, getting to work with all of those wonderful people that are on the association level, and the people that work for the associations, and to be able to spend good quality time and participate in, we're huge on education. I'm huge on education, and my company supports me 100%. I'm all about educating our next wave of leasing agents that are going to become assistant managers, that are going to become managers, that are going to move into a regional manager spot, to a regional VP spot. And we've got to educate them. Okay, I'm not going to do this forever. You're not going to do this forever. We have to educate them and train them and encourage them to get their license, their caps or their cams or whatever it is, so they can continue to grow in the association there are future leaders in this in the associations, and I feel that I contribute a lot. I really respect all of those men and women that are at the VP level in these multifamily companies, because what a job.
Yeah,
I mean,
man.
what a job that they do every day. And I really respect them, and I give them my best effort, and I appreciate what they do. I appreciate to hear their stories, right? I love to hear the Lisa Clarks, okay?
Right.
The Deborah Claters of the world that started out where we all started out at.
Yeah.
And then they're now presidents and vice presidents of their companies they work for. And I really, really respect those men and women that do that.
Yeah, there's a lot of amazing people in this industry.
A lot.
And, you know, there's people that have dedicated their whole life to this industry. And I mean, it's
Very
amazing to hear some of these stories and where people came up from. And that's what I love sharing with you guys on these podcasts, you know, especially when we can do it in my realm of the world, you know.
Yeah.
That's huge, man. And I think that is a big proponent of all this is the education factor and just being involved. You know, I got to a point with the associations that as I grew as a sales guy, working my way up to being a partner and everything, I got to the point where I was kind of maxing out with what I could personally take on and handle. And I was still figuring that balance out and everything. And to be pulled to all these other meetings and trying to give my clients the same amount of attention. And I let that slide for a little while. And I've been making a big effort to be back involved on a more consistent level because I know how important it is.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's key for a lot of young salespeople when you're in these roles, man. Like, you have to tap into that stuff because
You got to.
it's going to multiply for you tenfold.
Again, when you as a partner in Element, when you lose contact with the men and women that are doing the grunt work for you out in the field, and you lose that personal contact with them, that means something to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, good or bad, right? Coach Gibbs never lost personal contact. He didn't come in downstairs into the locker room very much, but at practice, when we were outside stretching, he would come by and just say, "Hey, how you doing, man? How's Linda and the kids doing?" And it was personal. Now, the other coaches come down and they chew your butt or, you know, "We're going to work on this today and you better be ready to go." Blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. But as soon as leadership forgets why they're in leadership, it affects your whole company, everybody. If you can't say good morning to the ladies that answer the phone, you got a problem. You need to really reconsider, why are you the leader of all of these people in your company? You need to acknowledge them. They're doing the job that you don't want to do, so they're a part of your company. So you got to stay in tune with your people. That's what makes going to the events so much fun. Seeing you and your groups out playing golf and hooting and hollering and high-fiving, and that's all part of it. You know, the one thing about the associations, and I'm going to tell every young person, I don't know how many people in Dallas-Fort Worth are in the associations or want to be in the associations. The one thing that I've never done in the associations is use it for business gain. Okay? I've always felt we're on the board to work for the members that are part of our association. I'm not on the board. Lisa Clark does not want me to come up to her 5 minutes before she starts a meeting in Dallas to say, "Hey, Lisa, is there any way we could get Olympus to sign up with us?" She don't want to hear that. Neither does Deborah. Neither does Sarah Turner or Casey Kuhn. They don't want to hear that. That's not what they're there for. We're there to do business to better our membership. And that's what we're there for. And I tell all these young people that want to get in the associations, if you're coming in here and you're going to pursue these people for your business purpose, then you're not going to make it because they're going to shut you down. And they're going to remember who you are when you get shut down. Now, you go to the business exchange, that's what we're there for. They know that we are
Absolutely.
there to recruit, and I'm going after them at the business exchange.
Yeah.
But not at the association level. And I think they've always respected me for that. And getting to know these men and women personally has been a treat, even though 3/4 of them I don't do business with. They're still family and friend to me. And
Well, I look at it as it's your opportunity to start building relationships.
Yes, very much so.
If at a certain point, they're going to ask you more about what you do because they're going to genuinely want to know you better. Yeah. And then, when they have that need, that's who they're going to think of. And that's where the business side comes in. But you're absolutely right. Like, you need to treat the business exchange, that's what that's designed for. When you're on the IRO committee or the PSC or Next Gen and stuff like that, that's for people to get to know you and for you to help across the board. It's not come in and this week, Ian Mattingly's speaking in front of you and you're immediately going to go hit him up and start pitching him on sales. Like, that's a terrible idea.
Terrible idea.
I mean, like, go for it if you want to try, but I would take a little bit of advice here and not go about
Patty
that.
Utley, I'll never forget. I threw my hat in the ring finally, and I told Patty I would love to serve on your board. If you have room for me, I would love to serve on your board. Lo and behold, I was the golf chair committee under Patty, right? And I was so excited that I was finally on a board. It was Fort Worth Apartment Association. I was pumped. I'm going to be the golf chair. I love golf. Golf chairs, right up my alley. I'm in. We go to Business Exchange that year, and she was my first appointment. Okay, you know how they give you your first appointment, right?
Yep.
So I went and sat down with her, and we had these little folders made with what we do and this. So Patty looks at me and goes, "Are you going to finally tell me what you do today?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am, I am. As soon as that clock hits 9 o'clock, I'm telling you." She goes, "I can't wait because I have no idea what you do." And I took that as a compliment. That I was doing it for the right reasons and not for... Now, the relationships that I've built over the last 5 years, unbelievable. I can go to any of them and ask them about invoices or ask them about, hey, who's your new construction guy? And they'll tell me, and that part of it's been great. And but that's,
or get a warm introduction.
Yeah.
Not just hey, here's his email.
So a lot of times they'll send an email out and say, hey, let me introduce you to John Brandis. And hey John, how you doing? Hey, come by, let's have lunch. And so that's kind of what it's all about. But the sales reps, respect. It had been a long time since they'd had a sales manager that would go on a bad call with them. When you got an angry maintenance guy or an angry manager, or you got a really, really angry regional manager, and I would go sit down with these people and say, calm down, we're going to work this out. And we would always get it worked out. And so I think they respected me for that, and I respected them because that's a lot of work. I mean, when you're calling on 500 different apartment communities in one territory, that's a lot. And I enjoyed it. I loved being out. I love construct. I was a sales rep at Acme Brick when I first retired. I loved going out. Remember, there was nothing out here. In this part of town, I used to drive. Remember we had the maps goes?
Yep.
Okay, we didn't have phones that had maps. So we didn't even have phones. We had pagers. But you would look up the maps go, and then you had to flip to another page when you were halfway here to catch the other half of the maps go where they were. I used to just look out in the field and I'd see a crane. I'd go, that's got to be it. And I would just wind down these country roads, which is now 121, which is now the tollway.
380.
Yeah. And so, and it was always fun because I like being outside and I liked running around, and I enjoy that today too. I cannot be I'm not an office guy, and I can't sit in there 9 hours a day, man. I've got to be out.
Yeah, office has to be designated office for me, just like I don't work well at home. I have to have my space. I have to have my things in order. And it's got to be balanced there for me.
Yeah, me too. I like to be outside, going out and finding out what's going on. Of course, my schedule's so full now, it's pretty easy because I'm always out. And, so I enjoy doing it. I have no intentions of ever retiring. Patrick,
love it.
Patrick, Tim, and I have always had an agreement that we were going to work this thing until it was
wheels fall off,
until it was debt free, and then our kids would all be ready to step into our roles, and that's what's happening right now. Is my son, I hope, will eventually one day step into my role, and Patrick's son will step into his role, and then Tim, we will find, Tim's son is a big wig and a lineman, so I don't ever see him getting in our industry, but we will find a guy that will step into Tim's role, and then we will just go to the island and go fishing all the time. And that's kind of the goal. Right now, we're busy. and we're loving it. And it's a new company. We left Builders First Source, and Patrick and Tim went on a limb, and they've bought us back to take us private because they did not like the corporate world after being independent for 30 years of their career, and they were tired of having to ask someone to ask someone to ask someone to ask someone to buy a truck. Patrick used to just buy them without asking anybody. Now he's got to go through a 5-email chain up the ladder to get a new 18-wheeler, when Patrick used to just go down and say, we'll take that truck, and they'd show up with it. And Ronnie would go, oh, you got another truck, huh? Yeah, I got another truck, Ronnie. So I'm thrilled that those guys did that, but I owe them everything, and I will never leave until I know that those guys are debt-free and they've got their money back and they're set, and I'm going to keep grinding and going. So
that's awesome, man. I love it, man. I love chatting with you anytime I get the chance, man. We have a great time.
Yeah.
What's maybe a roadblock you hit early on in your career after the NFL, when you're between construction or multifamily? Like, what's maybe a roadblock or something that you just thought, man, I do not know how to get past this, and maybe it ended up being a major turning point for you?
Yeah, the biggest roadblock I think most NFL guys have, even back when I played, was I retired. I was 30, going on 33 years old, when I retired, right? So I go to Acme Brick as a sales rep, and I am seniority last. Okay, you got these.
Hey, don't you see the Super Bowl ring?
Yeah, you got these 24-year-old kids that are graduates from UT or sales. They've been there, they've been there years before I got there. And the pay difference, right? You go from making this level of pay to down to this level of pay. And it happens as soon as you announce your retirement. You're starting out in the real world at minimum, and you have to work your way back up to get to where you're at the standards you were at when you were playing. And that was a big roadblock for me because I was, young, married, 2 young kids. I had a couple surgeries when I retired, so I took a year off to recover from those. And thinking that I was Superman and I had all the money in the world to retire on, and I didn't, because it went real quick when you have to start feeding them little monsters running around. And my wife started making a lunch for me and setting it on the counter, and I would say, what's that for? She goes, I don't care where you go today, but don't come back for 8 hours. And that was her hint to me. You need to man up and do your job. As the leader of our family, she demanded that you're done with all this time off crap. It's time to go to work. And just starting at the bottom and having to work your way back up was a big transition for me, from being at the top to now being at the bottom and starting all over again as a 33-year-old man with a wife and kids. And it didn't take me long. I got my feet out there, got busy at Acme Brick. I love sales. Sales is one of my favorite things in the world. I love sitting and communicating with new people, with people I've become friends with. And I knew that I was going to stay on the sales side. That's kind of why my son is in sales with us. He graduated from tech with a marketing degree, and I'm like, what are you going to do with that? Mm-hmm. You need to come into sales, son, because he has the same personality I do. He has the Hershulus.
Yes, he does.
He has the Hershulus Bedford market, and he makes unbelievable money for a 30-year-old. And super proud of what he's done from a 22-year-old. When he graduated tech, had no clue what Flowmaster was. What's the stopper do? He had no clue, to where he is now in his product knowledge and his experience, and he's just one of us. He does his thing. We don't ever worry about him. He's one of our top 6 guys, and he does a good job. And I have a daughter that's pretty much identical to my wife. My daughter is a lieutenant with the Arlington Fire Department. She works at a station where she has 11 firefighters underneath her that are all men. She is a beast, and she is their leader, and she's a very good one, and very well set. She'll be a captain probably a couple more years to push her way to battalion chief, which is where they would like to see her at. She's a leader, a tough leader, and they love that about her. And so to see your kids be successful, kind of follow your traits. My wife taught 34 years in the school system, And
She was quite the athlete too, from
she's
my
quite
understanding.
the athlete. She was a point guard at West Virginia, and she, for a 5'3" lady, she's meaner than any dadgum chihuahua
She's
I've
gotta
ever
be
been
to
around
put
in my
up with
life.
you.
She was mean. And actually, she's still mean. And so, no, but she was a great athlete. One of the attractions of me to her was, number one, her faith. Number two, she was an athlete. We started playing co-ed softball together when we were dating. And co-ed softball was my best sport. I played men's majors for years. I didn't realize she played women's majors in Virginia. And we started playing co-ed together, and I was like, dang, girl, you got this going on. So I started just falling for that. She marked off the boxes as far, because in the NFL, you could have anybody you wanted, pretty much. All of the ladies thought everybody was multimillionaires, and they wanted to be married to you. My wife wanted to marry me to be a husband and a father. And football, she could care less. I actually knew I was going to marry her. We were playing the Eagles. Were we playing the Eagles? It may have been Atlanta. Oh, we were playing Atlanta at RFK. And we were still dating at the time, but we stayed at the team hotel the night before. So we're at the Marriott. And it was monsoon. I mean, it was sideways raining when we woke up on Sunday morning. And I called her up and said, hey, Linda, what time you want me to pick you up for the game? She said, in the rain? Have you lost your mind? I'll have dinner ready when the game's over. It's on Channel 4, and I'm not sitting in the rain to watch you play football. That whole game, all I thought about was, I think I'm in love with this, because every other lady I would have asked to do that would have been standing outside waiting on me to show up. And I went to her house after the game and said, we're getting married. We're getting married. Because nobody would have ever turned me down to go to a game. Sit on the 50-yard line with the other wives, let everybody see that you're with an NFL athlete. That would have never happened with anyone else I ever dated in the NFL. And she was like, unless it's my kids, I am not sitting out in the rain watching y'all play football. That's why it's national TV. I get to watch it right here on my TV, and it's dry in here. Best seat in the house, and we've been married ever since, 34 years, and just rolling through life and enjoying life, and kids are big and healthy and strong.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's great, man. I love hearing stories like that. Is there a piece of advice that maybe from one of these mentors or coaches that really just sticks out to you still to this day that you think was really crucial? Like whether it was personally or professionally, like
man.
Because you had so many great leaders of men and mentors and leadership, and just the inner circle you created, is truly amazing.
The greatest, besides Dave Carlisle, who's my best friend in the world, my first mentor, he's 5 years older than me, keeping me straight and narrow when I was at the point where I could have went sideways. Coach Gibbs is probably the best mentor besides Dave that I've ever met. I'll tell you a great story. And this tells you what kind of mentor he was to all of us on the team. We in 1991, we get the American Bowl game in London. So we're going to go play in Wembley Stadium in London. Everybody in the world should want to go on that trip. You're going to play in one of the greatest iconic stadiums in the world, Wembley.
Yeah.
So we go in. The week before we leave, because you go for 8 days. You fly out there on Saturday and you play the game the following Sunday. The NFL comes in and we're going to do our passports, and they're going to make sure everybody has their passports right. They've got the passport people there, going to make sure that everything's set. So we get up there and we talk, and the first thing the NFL from the front office, the NFL guy from the front office tells us as a team, no children under 12 months of age will travel with you to the game. Now, you got to realize we've been in training camp for 3 weeks now. I haven't been home in 3 weeks. I've got a beautiful brand new daughter at home that I haven't seen for 3 weeks. So Charles Mann, who had the greatest name given to a human being, man, because he was a man. Okay, he was 6 rip. 5% body fat on 280 pounds, in the greatest soft-spokenest guy you would ever meet in your life. Stood up and goes, whoa, okay, players only meeting. So Coach Gibbs turned around, he goes, everybody out. Players, only the 45 active roster guys. All of our free agents, everybody out. Only the 45 guys that are on the roster. So Coach Gibbs gets up and walks out. Coaching staff walks out. Trainers walk. Everybody walks out. Only the 45 players. The NFL front office guys walk out. Just us. Charles said, I've got a baby at home, and I've got 2 other kids at home that I haven't seen for 3 weeks. I'm not going. So he takes out a piece of paper, signs his name on it. Everybody else went, hang on just a second. So all 45 of our active roster guys signed a piece of paper. He goes out in the hallways, tells everybody to come back in. They come back in. He makes the announcement, says, on behalf of the 45 active roster guys on this roster, we have all decided that you need to get another team to travel to London because we will not participate in the London game. And you can't force us to go to London. Okay, it's an extra game, and we're not going. Coach Gibbs goes, whoa, wait a minute. He gets up, walks up, signs the paper. Our other coaches got up, signed the paper. That's what mentorship and leadership is. And that guy was so committed to us. He gave up his life coaching us, missed out on everything his kids did. Both his kids were D1 football players. Maybe saw 2 games over 4 years for both of those kids because he had a job and it was coaching us. And the league made a real quick change of face and said, okay, obviously we're going to let the wives with kids under a year. I mean, Wilbur Marshall had kids at that time that were all under 1 year old. So they all finally, it was approved that they got to travel with us over to London. And, but for him to do that showed what you do as a true leader. The second thing he taught us was he demanded that you acted like a man and that you were a married man, right? If you were married, you're committed. That means you don't have 5 girls wait for you at the team hotel when we're on the road. He demanded that you acted like a man, and you acted like a married man. You got a wife at home that committed to having children for you, that said I do to your sorry butt. He expected you to act like a man. And all of those things I've carried over into my personal life, right? When my son gets married, I will demand that he is a man and that he leads and sets the example for his family. And so he was a major influence on me. Even today, I can't wait to see that guy when I get a chance to see him, just because of who he was and what he meant to me. I didn't have a dad. Dave Carlisle took that role first. Coach Gibbs picked it up and finished it. Dave started it, and then Coach Gibbs finished it. Both of them were godly men. Both of them were married men. Both of them were husbands and dads. And it's kind of hard to beat when you've got a couple guys like that in your life that make you want to be just like them. Sure beats the alternative of being a yeller, screamer, cusser, and acting foolish. I just don't do that. It's not my personality to do that.
Yeah.
During the game, when we were in competition, I probably said some stuff and did some stuff that I'm so sorry to everybody out there that I said that to you. But it's just during the adrenaline rush of playing the game that I would lose control sometimes, and I'd get after guys. But when the game was over, I was just totally a different person.
It sounds like your mentors, and I know this isn't the situation for everybody, and this is something I like to talk about on here, because this is definitely a top 10 question I get asked revolving around the podcast and my business really as well, is how did you build the relationship with your mentors or find the mentors? Your situation sounds like most of yours were teammates and coaches and stuff like that. Has there been a mentor outside of that? Is like maybe somebody you saw from afar, maybe it was one of the DeFords guys, because that was somebody you'd worked around and you decided you wanted to work more for him. How did you go about building that relationship to turn that into somebody I don't want to turn into is a bad word to use there, but you get what I'm saying, where like,
what you're saying.
How did you build that up to where you were able to have that kind of relationship with somebody? Because that's really one of the top questions we get asked all the time.
Really interesting, because I keep excluding Patrick out of these conversations about mentors. I'm older than Patrick. I mean, I'm 5 years older than him. When I went to the island with him the first time, I knew there was something about that guy that I wanted to know more about. There was something about him that I needed to find out in depth, a lot more of what his heart was all about. And he became not only a great friend, but I always tell him, it's really funny that me and you are so much alike. I used to take the sales reps out, and I would talk to these regional managers and say, hey, we're going to handle this, do that. They go, oh man, you and Patrick are so much alike. And I'd be like, yeah, since I'm older, he's more like me, and we still have fun joking about that even today. But Patrick, there's not another human that I can think of right now that I am so blessed that I left a job that I was really good at to step into another job that I really didn't know a whole lot about. I've never been a sales manager of 11 sales reps before, and I'm not a reports guy, and I'm not a computer guy, so I don't print out daily sales and do this and do that. But boy, what a mentor that guy was. That for me to have him as a friend that I could go sit in front of, and even today, we travel together everywhere. I mean, we go, he's in that class of top 5 guys that I've had that have entered my life and continued on what I've gotten from Dave, younger, and Coach Gibbs in the middle, and he's at the end going to finish it. And I think we complement each other well. We go to meetings, and some of the times I do a lot of the talking, because Patrick knows that I'm going to represent him like he would represent me. And so I love that guy. He is a brother to me, and we're together all the time. And Tim Burgess too. Tim and I are very, very close as well. And I'm fortunate that I could step out of doing what I love to do the most into a new job as a 51-year-old, and have these two guys be the guys that I'm looking to now to finish my career with. And we have just gelled. I mean, we have really gelled. And so I've been very lucky. And I'm not going to say it's lucky. I think everybody picks and chooses who they hang out with.
Absolutely.
Right? So if you got a bad apple, you need to eliminate that apple. Right? I'm looking for the good apples. I don't want the bad ones. There's a lot of bad apples out there, and I want to be with the good apples. And that's why I can speak proudly on our company, Maintenance Supply Solutions, that I stand behind every employee, that all 75 of us that work 3 warehouses in 3 different cities, that give the best customer service that we can give. We're all in it together. We go out. This is a great story. We hire a lot of people that come out of prison. They come into an apartment community in Duncanville. Okay. Steck is an unbelievable guy. He has an apartment complex that gives these guys kind of a halfway house these men and women, until they can get on their feet. If they fit our criteria, now we don't take violent criminals or sexual predators.
Right.
But if they're drugs or alcohol, I mean, come on, everybody, I mean, you would eliminate 90% of the workforce if that's what you're going to judge them on.
Yeah.
And so we hire them, and they work for us. And when we moved to we kept our Duncanville location, and we had another facility in Grand Prairie on Carrier Parkway. When we moved all of our product over there, we had to go through inventory. So Patrick and I and Tim and Sonia, the head of HR, all of these people that were divorce people, were there out in that warehouse every day for 3 weeks. And we'd get stacks of paper, and we'd go count how many of these we had, write it down. I had some of these people that were coming from this house. Why are y'all out here? I said, brother, we're doing this together, man. This is all of us. It takes all of us to do this. I've packed so many boxes in my career in that warehouse because they needed help. I've drove with some of our guys that needed.
Nobody's above
Anyone else. We're all the same level. And every one of those guys, I high-five them every morning, thank them for showing up. Hey, man, I'm glad everything worked out for you, and I'm so glad you changed your life. I heard you got your own place now. Yeah, I just moved out. Hey, I'm getting married in a couple of months. I'm like, sweet, that's even better. Just for us to be involved with them personally and not it's always business, but it's personal. Patrick and Tim, Sonia, all of us are the same. All of the front office people are the same to everyone in our company, no matter what titles mean. I always tell people, you know what titles get you? Fired first. Right? When a company downsizes, they're going to start looking at presidents and vice presidents because those guys are going to be the ones that go first. And titles mean nothing. What your legacy is how you treated people when you had that title. And that's what we do.
Absolutely, man. I can say that about everybody I've met over there throughout the years, that like everybody is top notch over there, man. And like you don't know who's who, like legitimately. Like I remember when I first got invited out there by the sales rep I had at the time for one of y'all's big like open houses y'all used to do.
Yeah.
And that was before I went down to the beach, you know, and just walking around there. And I mean, like everybody's like office was open. I mean, people were all over that place. And I mean, you could see how the business had grown over the years because like, it was like almost like a rat maze of like where you just kept adding on and adding on. It's like, well, here was lumber, here's doors, here's the plumbing, here's this, here's that. And it was just like, man, how do y'all even know where to go? And it's just like, but everybody had their place and everybody was doing their thing. So I think that's so important. And I mean, the things you're talking about are resonating so strongly with me right now because these are all the things I'm preaching right now and like really trying to establish and have present in all aspects of my life. I mean, like the leadership, the coaching, the communication, you know, just all of this, it is so critical to have that. And what a blessing that like you were able to have this opportunity and not look past it because you were very successful and happy with what you were doing, but yet something still told you like, I want to be a part of this. Like, I want to learn more from here. I want to grow here. And I think that just blossomed your purpose and passion tenfold, and you were able to like find out more and grow more. And it's just evolved everything for you. I think that's amazing.
Yeah. You know, oh, thank you, sir. I tell people that when I started at DeFord's going on 10 years ago, which is hard to believe, it's gone by that fast. DeFord's Lumber started in 1964. Mr. DeFord, the dad, started the lumber yard in 1964. When I started there 10 years ago, employee 001 still worked at the lumber yard. Okay, think about that.
That's
Since
impressive.
1964, employee number 1 retired the first year I started at DeForest 10 years ago.
That's impressive.
That tells you what leadership you have in place. That tells you the kind of people want to show up and work for. Ronnie DeFord knew all 230 employees by name. And he wore shorts every day to work with flip-flops if he felt like it because he owned the company. He can do whatever he wanted. He would walk through the millwork division. Hey, Jose. Hey, Juan. Hey, Bill. Hey. He knew everybody by name. And his door was always open. Every time I would walk down the corporate hallway, hey, Brandis, come here. I'd go in there, sit down. Hey, how's everything going, man? Are you adjusting good? Yeah. He was just that guy that taught Patrick how to be that guy. Okay? So Ronnie kind of, when he was ready to step away from it, Patrick took over and ran the day-to-day operations because Patrick was that guy. And it was an incredible family-owned business. Absolutely miss having those Gary and Ronnie around. And I'm so happy that I would have retired 10 years before they sold the company if I was those guys. But they held in there and went through the big boom of the housing industry because we were shipping 350,000 worth of lumber every month. And we only did custom homes. We did no track building. It was only custom. And they had a great business there, and they made a lot of money, and they made a lot of people happy. Everybody, once they started there, nobody quit.
Yeah.
Everybody stayed, and they held in there because they knew Patrick would always find a way to use your strength to the advantage of the company. So if you started out picking orders, but we come to find out you were going to be a better inside sales rep, answering the phone, taking orders from people calling in, man, you got promoted. You went inside and said, hey, start taking orders, and they'd be on that phone all day long because he would always find that niche that you were great at and put you in that niche. And
also a crucial skill for any business.
Any business. When you see somebody that has something that you think, man, that would really help us, put them in that position. The power of working is them knowing that you're watching and they have a chance to promote and do something different than what they're doing, right? We all grunt at the bottom and we just want to be noticed. And when you got leadership that notices who you are and they give you that opportunity and you make the best of it, good for you. If you don't make the best of it, then that's shame on you. And, you know, you get the cards that are dealt to you. Watching these halfway house people come to work for us, 6 or 7 of them are now managers. Our warehouse supervisor, who's second in command of he's right under our COO, Jansen Lenz, is doing a great job. He's been promoted up to where he's ready to be the COO of our company. Very successful in the business world, in the restaurant industry before he went, he took a little detour. And but to watch that guy, how much he's grown, and his work ethic is off the chart, and he's been promoted. And here, you're now the warehouse manager at Carrier. You're going to be the warehouse manager at Gannon. To watch him now, he's over all of it. It's fun to watch. It's fun to watch that group grow. The girls that have come to work for us as inside sales reps, now they're promoting into, they're in charge of the catalog, or they're in charge of the website. To see how they've all grown and just watch them all, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And it's kind of neat to see, what they've done.
I'm curious in this scenario, just because I kind of know the answer, but I'm curious how you're going to answer this, because this is another important factor or piece in all this that you've been talking about. Is it sounds to me, and I actually know, but there are no egos there. Egos are completely in check. How has this core group of guys that you've been around, all through the highs and lows and being bought out and being huge, to back down to we're going to put this back the way we used to do things and everything else, how has everybody always managed that? Because that's not easy. I mean, I see a lot of companies grow, and I've watched egos grow, and then they explode, and you watch all these things happen and then change, and then you got to find change. And there, you could be consistent with, maybe your leadership or your training or this and that, but something's failing here and there every now and then. How have these group of guys that you work with been able to do that and keep egos in check and stay humble and keep driving and leading a business this way?
It was, before we sold, everybody at DeFords knew Patrick was the boss. Okay.
You mean he didn't have to tell everybody?
He didn't have to walk around and tell everybody. By example, because you would show up on some mornings, Patrick would be driving a forklift loading lumber trucks because we had a guy call in sick. Right?
He was stocking the coolers when I met him.
Yeah.
At the trade.
Patrick started there at 16 years old, I think. He started with cleaning the lumber yard every day. That was his first job. And his stepdad worked for us forever. And he just retired 5 or 6 years ago. But when guys, here's the one thing that I always tell everyone. An effective leader is a guy that's done what everybody else in your company has done, meaning answered the phone, meaning had to go run a job site, meaning had to order your own material, meaning you were one project manager guy short and you had to start that job. Okay, They're calling you. Valiant's calling you saying, I need your guy, and you got to go run that job. Everybody sees that. So when they see us out pulling orders, they see us driving in a truck, helping the maintenance guys deliver appliances up 2 flights of stairs, they see that. And it means everything to them. But when you walk up to them and you call them by name and you shake their hand in the morning and you pat them on the back, hey, how's everything going, man? Everything's great. It's good to see you. Hey, good to see you too, John. That's what it's all about, right? So Patrick and them, unfortunately, when they got bought up in corporate America, right? Patrick went from the president of $450 million business. Okay, he took over a lot of responsibility. Not only did he have our yard, he had the yard over in Hearst. He also took over the window division, and he was swamped. But he couldn't make any decisions on his own. It was always email your supervisor that emailed his, that emailed his, that emailed his. And it caught up with him. Patrick started not eating well, started really stressing. He did not like what he was doing, even though he was making the same money.
Took all his passion away.
And he was getting paid, to do what he was doing. It was just, he couldn't be Patrick, right? He still ran the supply division, and we never had any time with him. I used to have to call and say, can I see you for 5 minutes? He goes, you got 5 minutes. Because he was so busy with emails and phone calls and get this done and get that report done and get this done. That's not who Patrick is. Patrick is a guy out doing it, okay? When I was still building houses, I went over to see him one day, just out of the blue. I just felt like, okay, I'm gonna go see Patrick. Got over there and walked down corporate hallway. Where's Patrick at? Oh, he's out in the warehouse. Went out there. He's on a boom lift, changing light fixtures out
in the warehouse.
In the warehouse. And I'm going, Patrick, hire somebody to go. He goes, why would I want to hire somebody? I can do this. I was like, oh, that's who he was. When he lost all of that, and when you're talking about a builder's first source that's $30-something billion, you don't have to do that stuff anymore. And he missed that because he was with his people. He was with his people that he wanted to be with. He didn't want to sit in 900 meetings a day with people that he could care less that he was with. He wanted to be with his folks. And so I saw it take a big toll on him. He went from the happy-go-lucky guy to not the real happy, down in the dumps guy. And Tim, a little bit he's a CFO, so he's a bean counter. For him, it was a pretty easy adjustment, even though he didn't like it either. But they kind of just have one trade, right? They're going to balance books, make sure money's right, boom, 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 boom. And so he kind of fit into his role. He didn't have to go to the office. He could work at home as long as he got this report done and this report done. So he had a little bit easier of an adjustment, even though he did not like it either at all. Patrick was the one that got overwhelmed with all the responsibilities that were thrown on him, and he couldn't be Patrick.
Yeah.
He had to be corporate America Patrick, not privately owned Patrick. Two different people.
Yeah.
And
I would imagine so.
We watched him kind of suffer and lose weight, and we finally started saying, Patrick, we need to go, you need to go get a physical, make sure your health is okay. And he was like, and be like, Patrick, you can't, this is not good. It's not healthy. And then one day, all of a sudden, I kind of dropped a hint to him, said, why don't you guys buy this thing back and let's go private? I can get some money. I can make a couple phone calls to some pretty powerful friends of mine. I could get money. Well, I didn't realize, because they didn't say anything, they were already working on it on the backside. And when they made the announcement, I was the happiest guy in the room because we lost our leader. And we finally got him back. And that was the best thing. So those guys have no ego. They understand that they have to do their part, just like everybody else has to do their part. You got to have your leaders leading. If they didn't show up and stayed at home all day, never communicated with anybody at the office, then their company would fail and they would lose a lot of money. And that's not what we're in it for. They're in it to pay the debt off and start making a profit where they can start doing other things that are a lot more fun than having to show up to work every day. And they dropped those egos real quick. And when they went into the corporate world, especially Builders First Source, they understood that they were now 5th on the list and not number 1 on the list.
I'm interested in your takes on the market right now. You and I have talked about this several times now, but like, how are you guys battling and dealing with this? You've come back to who you are. We all know what the market is and what it's been for since COVID, really.
Yeah.
And it's constantly changing and evolving for us, and that's a lot to take in. And you guys are now back in a space where you're competing with the Lowe's and the Home Depots and stuff in a very price-driven economy, which we've been in for the last 4 years. How have you and your leadership team tried to tackle that?
Yeah, we go from the COVID era to
The 100-year freeze.
yeah, and all of a sudden, man, the market went berserk, right? During COVID, money was gold. People had plenty of money. They were still getting paid. People were buying houses for $100,000 over asking price, especially the California groups that were coming in here. People were bailing out of California, and then all of these big money guys in California and New York started coming down here because they wanted to be a part of this game. Okay, they wanted in this game down here, so they started way overpricing these apartment complexes. Now, so when they're financing, they were getting these balloon notes, as we talked about, and they got stuck. Right? It went up and it never came back down. So they stayed up here, and they're paying the price for it now. Well, unfortunately, as you know, in our industry, when they pay the price, we pay the price. Mm-hmm. We've kind of bid it like all the other supplier partners have. Getting paid's a lot tougher now because they can't refinance yet because interest rates hadn't started lowering. So they're still stuck at those interest rates, and they can't go from 8 to 7.5. That doesn't make any sense to them on $50 million. They need to go back down to the 5s to make it worth their while to get a refinance. So we've saw a lot of construction exterior jobs, and we saw a lot of the interior rehab jobs really been kind of put on the back burner. Instead of changing everything, they just kind of change what's broke, and the carpet will make it through one more move in instead of changing the carpet out when a new move in comes in. And it's affected us to the point it's just struggling getting paid, but we understand what they're going through. The problem is we still have to pay our suppliers, okay, that supply us, right? Everybody you buy some, they want their check.
Absolutely.
Right? If they don't get their check, they just cut you off. Then the tariff deal came out, which I thought in my own mind will be the greatest thing, one of the greatest things ever happened to us. Because it's all part of the ploy of negotiating. When we're paying China trillions of dollars a year for product, it's going to balance out now, and they're going to start paying us for some of that stuff too. So we haven't seen a major increase as far as pricing goes. We've just seen a slowdown on budgets are a lot tighter. We're not going to do that unless we have to do it. We may not have to fix that. Let's repair that AC instead of put a new one in. So we've seen that side of it because people are just struggling trying to get things paid for. And so we take a lot of pride on customer service. We know who Lowe's is. We know who Home Depot is. Mm-hmm. They're multi-hundred-billion-dollar companies worldwide. We know how great they are, but we feel that we give better customer service than they do. And we just want our little slice of a big pie. We don't want half the pie. We just want one little slice. We're not controlled by Wall Street like they are. We don't trade on Wall Street. When you trade on Wall Street, they're the ones demanding. We're just privately owned, small company over here that just wants our little piece of the pie. And we're going to get that by customer service, promptness, 2 deliveries a day, all of our reps doing the best job they can for all of our customers, and treating them right and being good stewards. We have reps every day go to Goodman or go to Reese and pick up an AC unit, put it in their truck, make sure it's out there, because nobody wants a mom and 2 kids stuck in a unit that has no air. It's hot. And so we go above and beyond when it comes to that stuff. And That's who we are. That's who we're going to, it's hard to get our reps out of that now, that trend, because we're like, just tell them we'll have it out there.
It's your culture.
Tell them we'll be out there first thing in the morning. No. She's got 2 kids. It's 105 degrees out here. And we just go pick it up, take it out there and deliver it, right? You lose 2.5 hours a day of a rep, but it's for the cause that we stand for.
Yeah, it's your culture. It's your
our
values.
culture. It's who we are.
It's your core values.
It's our core values. And our customers know that, and they appreciate that about us. And that's why we've got so many good, loyal customers that stay with us. And sometimes price doesn't even matter to them. They're just excited that we still sell them, and we're excited that they still buy from us. So got a great group of sales reps. All of them are hardworking, dedicated to what they're doing. And Clint does a great job with them as far as sales manager goes. Clint came from sales at A to Z Parts Master, and before that he was in sales, to work his way up to being the sales manager of all of Oklahoma and all of Texas. He's sharp. He puts out multiple reports every day on sales and GPs, and it's all culture. So Patrick does not hire people like Coach Gibbs does not draft or take free agents that don't fit to their culture. If he misses one, that guy's. If they miss one, you're out. If you don't fit into the culture of what we're all trying to accomplish, then you got to go do something else. And we don't get a lot of those people. Most of the people we hire, they fit right into the culture. All of the employees that we brought over from AZ Parts Master, you would think they've been working for us since Patrick, for 20 years. I mean, they all fit into what we're doing. And
do you guys have like core values or a mission statement and stuff like that that's like real clear and stated within you guys?
Yes,
what are those? Out of curiosity, do you remember any of them?
To say them off the top of my head, I couldn't say them.
I didn't want to put you on the spot, but I thought I'd ask.
Yeah, but yes, we do, and they're a lot of the same core values. I'm sure a lot of companies put out there.
Y'all's just really resonate and radiate, and everybody seems to know what they are. So I was just curious what you all as a group.
I may have heard them one
on.
time, but the first time I heard them, I said, okay, yeah,
that's us.
That's me. Yeah, okay. Oh, sounds like a great idea. And I've just never. Yeah. But our new employees know that this is who we are and this is our core values, and they just see by our effort that they know that if they give the same effort, we're going to be really, really.
I think your leadership's so strong throughout the company that doesn't necessarily have to be written. It's not only spoken through their actions and their words. It's shown throughout. So
Patrick, when Patrick and Tim left Builders First Source and they were negotiating the cost, they were also in negotiating employees. And Patrick said, I want Sonia, Susan, Amy, Maria, Brittany, and I may be missing one. He goes, I want those 5 people, they're coming with me. They said, no. He goes, yes, they're coming with me because they have been with me for over 20 years. Their values are our values, and I'm taking them with me. Well, you can have 2. So he took 2 of them, and then all of a sudden, this one quits, Builders First Source, bam, working for us. Next one quits, bam, working for us. He didn't tell them to do that, but that wasn't their core values. Yeah. Okay, that wasn't who they were.
It didn't radiate with them. Didn't resonate.
They did not resonate with them, and they eventually, they all left and came to us. And Patrick's had this team together our AR people, Regina has been with Patrick for 25 years. She stayed, at Builders First Source. And that didn't take very long before she was like, we need to talk. And so it was because of who Patrick was as a leader and what our core values were. They were part of that, and they know what the core values are. So,
absolutely. What are you most proud of in your career?
Man, I tell you what, I tell people all the time, if I had to rank you know, uh, my faith, getting married, my kids. I mean, I won the Super Bowl in February of 1992. We played in February. And my daughter was born in April 14th. I realized in less than 2 months that football didn't mean a whole lot. Okay? I've got a little bitty tiny 9-pound human that's breathing and screaming, and I'm thinking, this is pretty stinking cool. So I learned real quick that just because I played in the NFL, my kids, you know how much my kids care that I played in the NFL? None. They care about who I am as a dad to them. Now, my son and daughter are both Redskin you know him.
Yeah, I know your son. I haven't met your daughter, but I know your son.
My son does not quit chirping during football season. Boop, 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 here we come. Boop. I mean, he's a Redskin junkie because I played there.
Yeah.
And I never told them that they had to do that. They just knew that I'd played one a Super Bowl there.
Does he live here?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So when they come to town?
Oh, he's there. He takes some of his customers there, and they start talking, and he does not. And now, here's the one thing I love about my kid, my son. When we win, our reps don't come in the warehouse very often. He comes, got his Art Monk jersey on, his hat's on backwards. He comes walking in there, and he is pimp striding, and they're all like, oh, no, here comes Shane, and he's just, whoop. But when they win, you can hear crickets, right? I mean, he is not going in there. So he loves it. He just loves the fun part of it. But I'm going to retire, and I've done it the right way. Is the most. If I'm super proud about anything, when I retire, people are going to miss me when I retire because I've done it the right way.
Absolutely.
I know the Dallas Association and the Fort Worth Association, they're going to miss me, and I know if I was to retire in a couple of years before Patrick and them retired, they're going to miss me. The people in the warehouse are going to miss me. The inside sales reps. I walk into our office every morning. If I go to the office, I don't go very much, but when I go there, I tell every one of our inside sales rep, men and women, good morning. And they're so used to it now. When I open up the door up, all of them say good morning at the same time.
Yeah.
They're going to miss me.
You've left a mark.
And I want them to miss me because of who I am as a person, and who what my values are more than anything else.
All right, we're going to do some fun questions because I want to be very respectful of your time, and you've got a drive ahead of you.
Yeah, I'm good.
If you could have a dinner, living or dead, or you can answer both. If you could have dinner with any historical, famous, idol, whatever, who would it be?
Boy, what a great question. I should have got those from you before we started this. Man, what a great question. If I could have dinner with somebody that's already passed that I wish I could have a little bit more time with, probably my grandfather, my mom's dad. He died when I was 5, and I didn't have enough time with him to know who he was. I would have really, really, really appreciated that. If I could have dinner with someone that is alive that I would love to have, I would drive to Charlotte, North Carolina to have dinner with Coach Gibbs. I would drive up there, have dinner, drive all the way back to Texas. If I could just sit down with him for an hour and have dinner, I would do it. Today, I'd leave now and go to Charlotte just so I could talk to him and he could talk to me. And just to hug his neck. And we tell him every time we see him, and I feel bad because my son and I, we go back to Washington every year for Alumni Weekend. We have over 550 players come back every year to DC for Alumni Weekend. So to see all of my teammates, to see some of our coaches, the ones that are still with us. Somebody else I would love to have dinner with is my special teams coach, Wayne Sevier. Wayne died of a heart attack about 12, 13 years ago, and I wish I could call him. I used to talk to him pretty much 3 times a week when I retired. And I would love to see Wayne again and just sit down with him and just have a conversation. Not talk football, just talk about life. And so, yeah, that list could be long. If I'd have had time to prepare for that, I would have a pretty good list. So
Fair enough. Are you a book guy?
a Buckeye?
A book guy.
Oh, book guy. No.
Not a book guy? All right, we'll scratch that
Been
one.
hit in the head too many times.
What's a habit that you have in your daily routine or your life that you think is crucial to who you are and where you've been able to achieve what you've achieved?
Probably my number one habit is prayer. I do it a lot when I'm driving to the office or I'm out on going to an appointment in the morning. I like to pray and make sure I've got everything straight because I can promise you the day before I screwed up plenty of times that I need to ask forgiveness for. And I do that every day as a habit. My kids and I telling each other we love each other. Every time we talk on the phone, it's always, I love you and I love you. Even with my wife, we do the same thing. People always ask me all the time, is that your wife? I say, yeah. I mean, we tell each other every time, 10 times a day. When
Tomorrow's
we're on the phone,
not promised.
It's not promised. I mean, my wife and I were in a very serious car wreck March 19th, where luckily nobody got killed. And that just solidifies why we do that, because we're just not promised tomorrow, right?
Absolutely.
So everybody should tell themselves every day when you're talking to your kid, and I don't even have to be the one that does it first. My son tells me, and he calls me and my wife every day just to tell us that he loves us. So does my daughter. Now, if she's on shift, we'll text her
Yeah.
because sometimes she's busy. The station that she's at, they run a lot of calls, but I always call her and say, Shelby, be safe, and I love you very much. And she said, Dad, I love you too, Dad. I'll call you when I get a minute. So those are very, very, very important traits that I have.
Absolutely. All right. I'll give a little plug here. You guys heard talk about this. I'm going to share a contact with you later based on what your daughter does. I have a very good friend named Kenny Mitchell that runs a company called Operation Yellow Tape. And it's for firefighters, first responders, police officers, anybody in that line of duty. And really it's for anybody, but mental health and what happens at home outside of that yellow tape and what they deal with when they're on call and on shift is a big issue in that industry right now. And he does a lot of speaking on that, coaching, and everything else. I would like to share that contact with you later on, but y'all know how I feel about Operation Yellow Tape.
Yep,
so
love it.
But I'll share that with you. All right, now's the fun part. We're gonna wrap it up here, but there's two little segments we do at the end of every show. First one, and I can't wait to see how you answer this, is if you got to leave your children with one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
Be like their mother. Seriously.
I did not expect that, and that has actually never been said in 104 episodes,
I would tell my children to be like their mother. Loving, caring, nurturing. Got up 10 times a night to feed them when they were screaming in their crib. Cuddled them when they're sick. Loved them unconditionally. Would have died for them in a drop of a heart. I mean, she's a mother. I would tell my kids, I raised my kids under the impression of, if you ever have an issue and you want to yell and scream about, come to me. We'll go outside. I'll let you yell and scream and say whatever you want to say with no punishment. If you ever go into your mother and do that, there will be severe consequences for your actions if you do it to your mother. This is the woman that gave you birth. This is the woman that nurtured you and raised you. And when you were sick, she was sleeping in the bed with you. You're throwing up on her. So my daughter is kind of built like me, red hair, a strong, but has her mother's attitude. Love her unconditionally. My son, of course, he's my softer guy. He's like me, emotional. And he is the lovingest, kissingest, huggingest kid that there is. But we raised them that way. We raised them and told them every day how much we cared for them, how much we loved them. And I would want my kids to be parents like their mother. Throw me in there a little bit, but be parents like your mother.
I'm pretty sure that'd be inevitable.
Yeah, I would think they would give me a little bit of a nod, but not when it comes to their mother, they wouldn't. So I would have to be kind of, that would have been an easy one if we would ever got divorced. When the judge said, "Who you going with?" They said, "We're going with Mom." We ain't going with that guy. So, but they're wonderful treats, and they're the greatest earthly gifts you can receive over everything that you get on the face of the earth is the birth of your children. And so I would hope both of my kids would mirror their mom. And my daughter's finding that out right now. We have a 9-month-old granddaughter, and she's the one getting up now. She's the one grinding, firefighting 24 hours straight, going home, bam, got kids. And speaking on the mental health side of it, I do a lot of work with Mansfield Fire Department. I'm lucky to be a part of a 4-man crew that runs our air and light truck for the city of Mansfield. So if we get a structure fire, 2 of us respond to every structure fire in Mansfield. And I have had many conversations with those guys. I've been on calls with them. I ride out about 350 hours a year. And I have been on calls that I'm like, and I don't get affected I got a pretty strong core, but I'm not a paramedic. I don't deal with what those guys deal with, and I'll get calls sometimes saying, "Man, hey, can you come by and see me?" So my daughter and I have an agreement. When she wanted to go into the fire service, you talked about pumped, right? I was like, sweet, I said, but you have to make a deal with me. You have to call me 15 minutes after you get off shift that morning. At 7:15, I expect you to call me. Every time you get off shift, you call me. Every time she gets off shift, I get a phone call 7:15. And I can tell by her voice if we need to go see her or if she's okay, right? Most, as you know, having friends in that service, most of them are pretty callous, not emotionally uncallous, but they're just callous to it, right? They've seen this.
They're going to know before anybody else knows what's going on with them.
Right, and unfortunately in that industry, in that service, same with PD, okay, they carry it home, right? They don't realize that their spouses are happy that they're alive when they come home. They don't want to hear about everything else. They're just happy to see your face walk through the door.
But they also need somebody to be able to talk to.
But they need to bend and blend it back. So we have a really strong group in Mansfield of guys that are trained in that, and Arlington has that as well. And so they're called the intervention team, which I hope one day that I can be on the intervention team, even though I've never done what they've done for a living. I can still talk to them and low key it. And, they got into that profession knowing what that profession entailed. You're going to see people get killed, and you're going to see bad things, and you're going to go to fires, and there's going to be death, and there's going to be issues that God didn't make our minds. He didn't make our minds for that, but you never forget it. And I think it, like you said, that part of it is every 5 years we get to go to Tulane University, or we go to Harvard Med, or we go to some school, some hospital in California. I always go to Tulane. We get to go every 5 years through the NFL Trust. And part of we get a physical, starts Tuesday night, and it's from the hair on your head to your toenails, everything in between. It's intense, it's amazing. Part of it is your mental health. Well, when you go to mental health, your wife goes with you, because they don't want you to lie through mental health. So if you've got issues, the wife's going to say, "Man, y'all need to talk to this clown. He's this and this and this and this." And they have services for that, and they have people that will guide you.
That's awesome to hear.
Guide and lead you to recovery. Whatever your issue is, they got people that will take care of it. They will immediately get you in contact with the NFL hotline, and they will immediately have people that are knocking on your front door saying, "We need to talk." And so that's the best part about taking your spouse with you, because spouse ain't going to lie. And there's no reason for her to lie. That's why we're there. If there's something wrong and we think we're men, we've got it figured out, I'm good. You're not good. So sometimes firefighters and PD need to have people intervene with them and slap them around a little bit, say, calm down, let's talk about this. So there's no need to argue with your spouse about it. Let's me and you talk about it. And they got to have that. And God love what they do, because you talk about a job, whew, that's a tough living.
Oh,
man.
boy.
That's a tough living.
Yeah. Well, I'll share that contact with you. I know
Okay.
he'd love to get more opportunities to speak to more people in that field. And
I would love it.
He's out of West Virginia, but yeah, we'll get him down here.
Oh, nice. He's a mountaineer.
Yeah,
Probably.
he's up that way, man. He's up
Nice.
there in Virginia area. This segment show's called Common Sense, and we like to give everybody a chance to give everybody their 2 cents. So this could be something I didn't ask you that you wanted to talk about. It could just be something we didn't go deep enough on that you want to say a little bit more, or maybe it's just your message you want to share with the listeners.
I'll just leave it at this. Whatever you do for a living, you chose to do it. Be the best that you can be and love everyone that you deal with every day. Take no hate home. Love everyone, right? We're all in this together. It takes all of us to do it. So color, race, all of that stuff doesn't matter. Love everyone that you deal with every day. If you pull up on somebody and they're having a bad day, love on them, man. They need somebody to love on them. So just let your feathers shine and spread out like a big proud peacock, and be proud of who you are and what you do. Have all the self-confidence in the world that you are the best at what you do. And if you ever think less than that, get with somebody that can talk to you about how to be the best that you are. Have faith in you're that good. And if you ever doubt yourself, get somebody to talk to you about. Don't doubt yourself. If you're in it, do it to the best of your ability. 99% of the time, I tell young reps this. If you don't know the product and they don't know the product, then you're going to make a fool out of yourself. So know what your craft is, be good at what your craft is, so that manager doesn't have to look through 60 pages in a book to find something. She has no idea what it is that our maintenance guy needs. Be good at what you do. Do your job the best that you can. Go home. Love your family. Love what you do. If you don't love what you do, Coach Gibbs used to tell us, you take the dollar sign, take your money that you make, and times it by the hours it takes you to make it. If those two don't equal, you're in the wrong profession. Right? You're in the wrong profession. If you work 80 hours a week to make $1,200, you're in the wrong profession. There's other jobs out there that do better than that. So he used to always tell us that. Men, take the money, times it by. So just all young people that are coming out of college, getting in the real world, be the best that you can be. Love people, show up, do what's required. You're going to find yourself growing and moving up. Know your profession. Know it well. Be good at it. So when you sit down in front of very experienced people that are in their 50s and you're in your 20s, you can talk on their level and you can communicate with them on their level. So just be good at what you do. Love everybody, man. Sometimes you're going to have disagreements. Don't go home with disagreements, man. Get it over with. Be done with it. Move on. No sense dragging it home. It's going to affect you. Then it'll carry over to the next day. Just get it over with. Move on. There's other more important things in life than worrying about having a little squabble over a $25 part. Move on. If you need it, I'll just go get you another one. And so it's just easier that way. Not getting taken advantage of. Now, there's a difference between getting taken advantage of and doing the right thing, right? When you're getting taken advantage of. Then you stand your ground and you need to be confident in who you are as a rep or in any profession. Stand your ground. Sometimes your boss needs to hear you stand. Bosses need to hear what their employees are thinking. Good bosses do a lot more listening than they do talking. You got people out in the field, you need to sit down and be quiet. Let these people talk. They're the ones out there grinding. They know what's going on out there. It's hard for me to question what my reps do if I'm not out there with them. And get it over with. Be happy. Go home happy. Look forward to going the next day. Greatest thing that I can tell you is wake up every day excited about going to the place that you're going and give it 110% of your effort. It's noticed. It is noticed. People notice that. And if you're not giving it, they notice that as well, right? If work starts at 8, get there at 7:30. You want a cup of coffee, get it at 7:40. Be ready to go at 8 o'clock. It's noticed. Your supervisor's going to notice, and so are the people in the front office are going to notice that. So a lot of what we do, and you've been in business a long time, a lot of what we do is the reflection on how we are. It has nothing to do with the standards and our code and all that stuff. A lot of times employees are judged by the character of who they are, and it's not the employer's fault. Sometimes it's your fault, and you need to make changes to make it better. You can't come in at 7:59 every day and be ready to go at 8 o'clock. Get there, get ready, let's go. I'm old now, so I'm a 4:30 in the morning wake up guy. I'm about an hour away from bedtime, so by the time I get home, I'll be taking a quick shower, and I am going into bed. But
you and me both, brother.
hey, brother, I'm at the office at 6 in the morning, and I'm ready to go. So if you need me, I'm there. And so life is too short. I'm telling you, I'm 61 years old now, involved in a serious car accident on March 19th, and it can go really quick. Okay, I was 2 feet away from being killed instantly in a car wreck. So enjoy it every day. It's a new day. Smile, love your family, love your people, and move on.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we're going to wrap this up now. John, thank you so much,
You're
man.
welcome, brother. Let's
I
do
had
it
a
again.
great time. We will definitely do this
I
again.
got more to say.
Yeah, we will
No,
definitely do
just
this
kidding.
again, my man. I appreciate it greatly. You guys, thank you for tuning in. Again, I greatly appreciate each and every one of you that tunes in, supports this show. We're going to keep growing this thing. And announcement, we will not have a show next Thursday, but we will have a show on Tuesday. So, you guys, we've got the Tatted Prez. Look him up on Instagram. My boy Jason Neems, he's coming in here. And man, this dude's going to be bringing some fire for y'all. He's started one of the top roofing companies now. He's out there grinding. He's got a lot of things going on, just married. So we're going to talk all things life, fitness, coaching, roofing. We're going to bring another one of those for y'all next week. So again, y'all, thank you for tuning in. Peace.